For all of you who listen to Mackey's Second Floor Studios presents Submersion and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure to set Mackey's Second Floor Studios as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices. Big things are happening in the submarine world. On September 4th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eric Marino, who's been on our show multiple times, has organized a Reddit AMA where you'll be able to ask anything you've ever wanted to know about submarines at iama.reddit.com. We will be participating, covering the submarine movie section, and here's just a few of the amazing confirmed guests. Stockton Rush, the founder and CEO of OceanGate Inc., a privately held company that provides manned submersible assets and expertise for commercial, research, and military applications. Commander Ryan Ramsey, the former captain of the HMS Turbulent. H.I. Sutton, the author of books such as World Submarines Covert Shores Recognition Guide, a researcher, artist, and owner-editor of HISutton.com. David Owen, a Royal Navy Trafalgar-class veteran. Ian Ballantyne, author of The Deadly Trade, Hunter Killers, and Killing the Bismarck. Josh Dean, the author of The Taking of K-129 and writer for GQ, Popular Science, and Business Week. To stay up to date on everything regarding the AMA, head on over to submarines.reddit.com and be sure to join the community for all kinds of great information regarding submarines. Episode 31. Woo! And we are on to week 3 of...
There we go. It's growing on me. I don't condone it.
Japanese Movie Month.
There we go.
And on this episode, we have an interview with an expert, Mr. Nick Palodichuk from the St. Paul Filmcast, who watched a movie that we accidentally told him to, and it's not the same one we watched.
So it's a good episode. He watched the other film by the exact same title as the film that we watched.
Yes, so there was a little confusion, so we'll be talking about that at the end of the episode for your listening entertainment.
That's hilarious that he watched that other one.
Did I not predict it? I was sending texts saying, like, I can't wait for him to have watched the wrong movie.
I apologize to him a lot because he was like, yeah, this movie that I watched has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a terrible movie. Yeah, it's one of the... Jamie Lee Curtis said it was the worst film she ever made, was that one, Virus.
Wow.
But don't want to jump ahead and saying what movie we watched.
Yeah, I'll bleep that out.
Yeah.
So I did something for the first time in my life this weekend.
Did you take a bath?
Have sex with a girl.
Wow, that really went from 6 to midnight pretty quick.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, took it a little blue. A little early.
I went to the Renaissance Festival in Minnesota.
So that's the exact opposite of having sex with a girl.
It is. It is a, I don't know, prevention.
Did they talk
an experience
in Old English?
They did. A lot of people did. They were in character. I was just laughing about it.
Did you mess with it? Did you try to get him to break character?
No, I didn't.
I heard it's pretty easy, actually, for that place.
Yeah, you just go up and push them, right?
No, you ask them, like, what time it is, and they'll just, like, whip out their watch and be like, it's like 3:30. And you're like, oh, but you're the Renaissance time. And they're like, I don't.
Well, I didn't try to do that. I was there because I love jousting.
Yep.
If there's ever, like, a medieval times around, I always want to go to it because I have a blast watching that. I don't know why.
Yeah, we looked around for one of those nearby, but there's none in our area.
There's, like, a Norse one.
Yeah, up north, though.
Yeah, northern Minnesota.
You have to go a real long way.
There's one in Toronto you could go to.
Perfect.
Ooh, that is really far.
Yeah.
I think Chicago's a little closer. Yeah. And I also got to do some axe throwing, which I'd never done before. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. This might sound a little cocky, but I was pretty good for my first time.
I was really bad when I did it.
So
I went to the Renaissance Fair.
I watched this dude who had like these massive guns, arms.
Not actual guns.
Yeah, he wasn't,
packing heat.
No. He was not brandishing a firearm at Renfest.
Right.
But he was throwing them super high, and like even threw one back behind the thing, and then he couldn't get him to stick in the target at all. He had 10 throws. I went up, and I stuck 8 out of my 10 in the wood.
Jesus.
And like 3 of them in like this little tiny bullseye. I was like, ha.
Did you win anything?
I won a rainbow feather.
Oh, congratulations.
It was the second feather of the day I won.
That's nice.
And my wife made me wear them in my hat because I had to pay to play these games and I needed to display it.
Come on, Kyle. You know you actually wanted to do that.
I got to say, the story has gone on so long that if I had control of the dive buzzer, I'm going to be telling you.
Yeah, I know. It's so good to have it.
It might have went off, but Dive! Just took a second for him to find it there.
What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Second Floor Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains, Alex the Mustard Man, the artist formerly known as Brom, Jamie the Brain, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion. All right.
There we go.
So, we are one seaman down tonight.
That's true.
We finally did it.
We ejected Baram
from the torpedo tube.
Get out of here.
We gave him a little tether and an oxygen tank. We'll see how long he lasts.
Yeah, we'll see if he survives.
Yes. But, Alex.
What's up?
You sound like you're a million miles away.
I think he probably is.
I'm here.
All right, Zach.
Yeah?
What movie did we get to watch today?
Virus.
So I like that a lot.
So it's 1980s Virus. It's a Japanese-Canadian production. It seemed like maybe it was a Canadian production.
Nobody knows.
It was also known as Day of Resurrection. That was the direct translation of the Japanese title. Was Day of Resurrection.
Oh, I was like, wait, the word virus in Japanese means Day of Resurrection.
No. The Japanese title itself. But I guess it was released as Virus in the United States, whatever release it actually ended up getting in the United States. But yeah, I mean, I had heard of this before and thought it had been pretty well regarded, but apparently it was a massive flop. It was supposed to be released in the United States widely, but really didn't get a release at all. So I don't know. Guess it's not particularly well known or anything like that.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it was directed by Kinji Fukasaku, written by Koji Takada, Kinji Fukasaku, Gregory Knapp, and the novel was written by Sakyo Komatsu.
And that's actually a big part of the story of the making of this film is the fact this is based on a novel. And I'll get to that in the trivia.
Oh, okay. It stars Glenn Ford as President Richardson, Robert Vaughn as Senator Barkley,
That's right.
George Kennedy as Admiral Conway, Olivia Hussey as Merritt, Edward James Olmos makes an appearance as Captain Lopez.
Didn't even recognize him.
I didn't either. Then
He's got
somebody,
like long hair and
somebody
shit.
said his name. I was like, wait, no way.
Yeah.
I know he's supposed to be in this. And then Masao Kusakari is Dr. Shuzo Yoshizumi.
And he's our hero, right?
He is.
Okay, yeah, Shuzo.
And there's another guy I forgot to put on here, but he's an
Connors
old
or something like that. Yeah, Conway or something. Yeah.
Call him an old Dolph Lundgren.
Sure. Yeah. There's a couple people that kind of were interesting casting, but
yeah,
whatever. So, anyways,
hold on. Has anybody ever seen this movie before?
No. What do you mean?
What do you mean? Seen it before we actually watched it this time?
Before we had watched this?
Yeah. I just
No.
like to keep you guys on your toes.
No, I had never seen this before.
I had not watched this before.
It's the first time.
I like to keep Zach involved.
Oh, I see. Zach, did you see this one before?
No, I have
Alex,
not,
what are your
guys.
favorite
No, I
pizza
have not.
rolls?
Yeah, Alex, what's your favorite pizza rolls?
I don't know. Regular?
Regular pizza rolls. Regular flavor.
Hell, dude.
It's like bubblegum flavored, right?
Wait, why are we talking
Yeah.
about this?
Anyways, we open in a snowstorm in East Germany.
No, we don't.
What do we open on?
We open with some dude walking through the desert, and it just says virus.
Sure. I mean, I guess. Fine.
And then we're in the blizzard.
It was funny, actually. Now that you mention it, I didn't even remember that because when he was walking through the desert or whatever at the end, I was like, wait, I feel like I know this scene. Like, what's going on here? That's from the beginning.
Subliminal messaging.
So then we jump to a snowstorm in East Germany where a scientist is trying to get a sample to kind of an agent who's going to transport it. Because it's a new biological weapon that has been stolen from a U.S. lab called MM88. And so
I wish they would have just dropped one of the M's.
Yeah, maybe.
This is M88. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I said no. Millimeter 88, MM88. And it is, he's trying to get it to the scientist in Zurich who he thinks can potentially create a vaccine for it because it's like so dangerous. He said, if I open this,
you'll be dead within 3 days.
3 days. Now, do you remember from Agent Red, how long did that take to kill you?
Oh, shoot. How long? It was hours, right?
It was a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
And I talked about how ridiculous that was from a scientific point of view.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you do it. 3 days actually kind of makes sense, given how like the virus functions and stuff.
It could
like
work.
That. It actually would make sense. Anyways, they say everyone would die if I open this thing. It's got like 100% death rate, and we learn kind of why when they explain a little bit of science of it. And we got to get it to Zurich. So anyways, when he was coming in to deliver this thing, you could see the people kind of acting a little shady at the front of when they were opening the gate for him. And so in busts like a bunch of agents from East Germany because they've been alerted that this person's here with this biological weapon. They shoot the scientist. He gets shot right in the eye and dies.
Yep.
And then the agent that he's given the thing to try to get to Zurich escapes and is now in a plane. And it's basically like, thank God I escaped. Also, we're definitely not bringing this to Zurich. We're going to sell it to like the highest bidder or whatever. Like he wouldn't have been very happy about that. And then they get in a plane crash. Then they just crash into a side of a mountain.
And then all of a sudden, boom, the vial breaks open on the side of a mountain.
Now, you would think that being on the side of a mountain, no one would ever come in contact with this virus, but apparently that's not the case. It's just like immediately people start getting sick.
Yeah. It was also kind of weird because the guy who was going to give the virus, do you remember how much money they were going to give him for this thing? They could like
$50,000 or something, right?
$50,000 for something that could alter the course of the world. You're like, all right, I guess that's all I want.
Yeah, and he actually said, like, what do you think, I'm in this for the money? How dare you? But I was like, I would be like, 50,000. I can not really helping me out very much. I got to go on the run. I'm on the lam from the U.S. government now.
Yeah. But then we cut over to Maryland.
Yeah, so that's where they developed the vaccine in leagues with the U.S. military. And we see a scientist, and he is real nervous. And we find out why he's real nervous because this vial had been stolen from their lab. And
by Klaus.
I don't even know who that is. I guess that was that guy.
It had to be that guy. I never knew his name.
Yeah. So a military guy comes in and says, like, what are you worrying about? We're figuring this out. Like, don't worry so much. And the guy's like, what are you fucking talking about? Let me explain to you exactly what this virus does. It piggybacks on other viruses and reproduces them 1,000,000 times over. So the viruses that kind of live inside you would reproduce over and over again and kill you and overwhelm your system. And so you can't really make a vaccine against it because it's kind of ramping up every virus in your body or something like that. Yeah. It's not really a virus in itself. It's kind of like a virus that perpetuates other viruses and stuff like that.
But guess what?
What's that?
This thing cannot survive in temperatures below freezing.
Well, no, it goes dormant. So it survives. But
that's true. So it would survive.
Slowly.
If you were infected beforehand,
and then you
wouldn't, you couldn't freeze.
Right.
Well, maybe if you froze your body to freezing.
Perfect.
They didn't try that.
They didn't try it. They should have tried that. You should have been in this movie. What's going on here? So anyways,
everybody.
He's like, we're fucked. And then he like storms out. Kind of. He also has a feeling he knows exactly why this was going on. Like nuclear weapons have kind of come to a stalemate where Russia and America both have these systems of retaliation that are automatic. So like even if you launch a nuclear missile, the other country would destroy your country. So they can't really use nuclear weapons anymore. And so they wanted to make the next step, which kind of puts Russia on their heels again. And it's just like biological weapon or whatever. So he storms out and they figure out from like some papers on his desk that he's going to leak the information to the Senate committee on this kind of that controls this kind of stuff. And so instead they throw him into a loony bin. You make him inside.
We'll take care of that guy.
What I love is like, he's got like a standard checkup tomorrow, right? You know, we'll do it. And in my mind, I'm like, it's weird that he's so like aggravated. He's like, I got to make that doctor's appointment tomorrow, though. Yeah. He shows up to his like regular like checkup. He's like, I really gotta leak this really important biological weapon information to the Senate committee, but gotta have my annual checkup this morning.
Yeah, my health insurance rates are gonna go through the roof if my triglycerides are high.
Yeah,
and then we cut on over to Russia where there's a bunch of cowboys riding around.
Oh yeah,
And
sheep are all dead.
they are.
Which
Boy
is a
who
little
cried
weird.
dead sheep.
This is a little weird, though. I mean, I guess this kind of tells you the impact of the virus itself, how it kind of functions not as like a specific virus, because, you know, a lot of viruses, you can't, you know, like a chicken can't get AIDS from a human or whatever.
Have you tried
right?
it?
That's true. As often happens on this podcast, I have not tried this, and so I can't, you know, denigrate it. But you know what? It's possible. I just don't think it is. Anyways, so chicken can't get AIDS from like a human, and yet the sheep gets this virus from the vial or from people or whatever, and then it spreads all across like the world or whatever. It's called the Italian flu for whatever reason, even though it started over in Cossacks, Soviet Union or whatever.
Yep.
They
I
call
like it though.
They call it the Italian flu.
Well, it's way easier than saying like, oh, this is the Cossacks.
Oh yeah. And it's got a, what is it? 100% death rate? That's right. It's 100% death rate.
Oh, yes it does.
And so 3 days later you will die. So anyways, the weird thing is that the president of the United States is kind of like wringing his hands a little bit about this whole thing. And yet at no point are they like, hey, Mr. President, you should maybe get into like a bunker and like be away from the virus. Because
This was weird.
No one in the United States has it really. They should even show a chart, and the U.S. infection rate is like pretty low at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly the idea is like over the days you can see people start to come in with the flu.
And they have
the Oval
direct
Office.
contact with the president.
Yeah, it's so strange. I'm like, no, wait, this is like the worst possible virus containment ever. Like every country would have something to stop this. It's kind of funny too, because you think about places like Hawaii and stuff like that. Like everyone in Hawaii should be alive. It's actually like a travesty that somehow Hawaii would get infected, because
You'd have to stop people on planes though.
and that's the thing, though. They would have. They probably would have been able to in time stop people on
maybe.
planes. People are dying within 3 days of having the infection. Like,
Yeah.
Once
But all
they
it takes
know-
is one person on that island.
but then they'd be able to quarantine on the different islands that you can only get to from like little plane hoppers and
Oh,
stuff
that's
like
true.
that.
Yeah.
People are going to survive in Hawaii. That's my main point of this argument.
All right.
Anyways, his political opponent's like the senator, and the senator's like, you don't understand. We know why this happened. It's because the military done fucked up, and you have a bunch of idiots in here. And this super weird 5-star general comes in and is like, we know what this is. This is actually a ruse by the Russians. Like, we got to put our ASR system, automatic, whatever, like, into, high gear so we don't, we can counteract this obvious devious plot by the Russians. Everyone's like, I don't know about that. Because then they bring in, like, the scientist, and the scientist is like, yeah, this is a weapon we developed. And he
The one that they tried to silence.
Yeah.
That's saying he was crazy.
And he comes in and he's like, no, and he explains the whole plot, and like the other military scientist kind of relents and is like, yeah, sure, yes, this is what happened. And this 5-star general is like super delusional and like continues to be like, it's the Russians, we gotta like take out these Russians. He like won't accept the fact that the military was responsible, and continues to think, even as everyone is dying around him, including like the president and the senator, and he's dying too. He's gotten sick by the end of this whole scene.
Yeah.
And he can't accept this. So anyways, the president does a couple things here. One, he realizes that Antarctica is separate and just coming out of winter. So they won't have realized yet, or they won't have any contact for the entire winter there. And so they shouldn't be infected at all. The virus wouldn't have got there. And anyways, -10, the virus would be dormant. And so they'd be able to get to a place that wouldn't have it anyways.
Yeah.
And so he calls down to them, is like, you got to start a new civilization. Work together now. We got ourselves into this giant mess, and you guys are the last hope for humanity, and work together, and you're going to do it.
He's like, I don't have an answer for you though, other than hope.
Yeah, just like hope. And then he was saying like, if only we had more time. If we had more time, we could maybe develop a vaccine. And he kind of was thinking on those lines with Antarctica, like maybe Antarctica will finally develop that vaccine, which is kind of like,
it's like, okay.
yeah,
do they have
probably not. And yet
facilities down there for that?
And yet.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, they start showing all the death tolls around the world.
Millions.
So, like, I did enjoy this because it
Showed
was
how
kind of
big
funny to
everything
me. Well, it's just like New York, 7.4 million, London, 6.9, Paris, 2.3, Rome, 2.9, Moscow, 7.8. And then it was Tokyo, 10 million. But it was just like, bum, bum, bum.
Right.
It's like, now we're talking.
So you're saying death toll 37.3 million, but in reality it's
100%.
multiple billion. So because like everyone dies. And so anyways, they're on Antarctica and they're starting to collect people together to make this new civilization. So there's a bunch of countries that have bases on Antarctica, and they send 2 representatives from each of those bases to form the initial government of this place. On the way, the Japanese delegates find an Norwegian lady. I think it was Norwegian, right? I think it was Norwegian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was pregnant in Antarctica somehow. And she gave birth while the rest of the people in the Norwegian base like went crazy from lack of contact. They kind of went cabin crazy or whatever.
Killed everybody.
And killed everyone.
There was even a dead guy on a foosball table.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Why is that? I like that scene. I don't know why that's there, but...
That's disrespectful for foosball.
Yeah.
Come on.
Respect the game, guys. Yeah. But anyways, before this, that crazy general...
Yeah.
Before...
Oh, yeah, he arms the thing.
Yeah, he's he gets down into this underground layer after the president dies, and he's like, "Sir, do I now have your permission to arm the missiles?" He's like, "All right!" And he just goes.
And arms it, yeah.
And he just goes and arms it, and now they're ready to launch at Russia.
Yeah.
I thought he was just going to launch right there.
You would think that maybe he would have, but he just armed it with the idea being that if something happened, if they were launched at, as he presumed in his crazed mind would be happening, that they would then be able to retaliate rather than just whatever. Even though somehow he doesn't realize that everyone is dead. Like everyone is dead. He's one of the last survivors. Seemingly. Yeah. So anyways, on Antarctica, they stop and find this Norwegian lady who gives birth, and he leaves. One of the delegates says, "Okay, you have to stay behind and help her give birth."
Yeah, and get her back to the base.
And then, but I'm going to go along and we'll form this government. And they kind of meet to form this government. And it's kind of like to start like a little bit of a shit show. It's like all these people who kind of hate each other. So the Chilean guy, Edward J. Olmos, and Argentinian guy like go at it and start like fighting. And US and the Soviets don't trust each other and all this kind of stuff. And eventually they're like, cut it out. Like we gotta be like more reasonable. And it's kind of like an army guy, right? Who kind of does that, right? He cuts in. Yeah.
The guy, well, he just shoots a gun.
Yeah, he shoots a gun.
He's like bam!
He's like, we gotta be reasonable. We're the only people
listen
left on
here,
Earth.
partner.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to shoot you up. Like, aren't you Swedish? Yeah, I am.
And
anyway, there's a big disproportion in the amount of men to women.
Yeah, so we start to get some scenes of like what life is like in this spot. And one of them is that there's this huge disproportion of men to women. So there's 855 men and to 8 women. And so they have this whole scene, and I could rant about this for hours, but I won't. But they have this whole scene where a woman gets raped. And she shows up to the tribunal, this like group of people who are representing the government, and are like, this lady got raped. Like, you have to do something about it. No one's doing anything about it. We know who it is. Like, you should do something about it. And they literally hand wave and like apologize for like, oh, come on. It's like human nature. Think about how many men there are and how many women. You're a most prized resource. Of course, there's going to be rape. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like, what? And they kind of try to make this whole evolutionary argument for like why it will exist and that they must counteract it with these like measures that are just like crazy. Like, okay, we have 2 options here. Either you can get raped or you can be a baby factory. Which are the 2? I'm like, I feel like that's not really a binary situation here. Those aren't the only 2 options we have for you're literally prized reason. You just said it was like the most important people on the station. And you're like, you can either be a baby factory or just raped all day. Which one? Most prized resource that we prize so much.
And it's really weird because they even have a woman on the council who's like, all right, this is her exact quote.
We really don't know how to go about it just yet. Although the problem itself is certainly clear enough. Women have become our most valuable natural resource. And as has just been pointed out, one-to-one relationships are no longer possible. This means that each woman, however reluctantly, will have to accommodate more than one man. Of course, we will have to go against deep personal feelings. And this is an extremely serious matter. But somehow we must find the will to suppress our instincts. And that is what troubles me the most. Can we? Can we control our instincts with reason?
Unless we can. there is no future.
It's like on the women to like do that. It's like, we won't be able to control our rapist instincts.
But you guys should like
you got to do something.
Totally do something here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god. Okay.
So that part was super weird.
It's really strange. There's arguments you could make that you could have made some kind of interesting question of like, in order to create the diversity needed, like you will have to probably have a bunch of babies, and it might be something where you say like, you can still have your husband or whatever, but you might have to have sex with someone else or whatever. Sorry. At the same time, you're the most prized possession, so you get like everything. You like run shit because guess what? You're like literally the most important person around. But instead, they're like, not only are you still like secondary citizens of all this, but we're going to run this lottery every Christmas, and you open a card and congratulations, you have sex with a new guy that just like randomly drew your name. It's like, yeah. Wait, why don't they choose? At least they can choose. Like, come on. At least you can say you have to have sex with other people, but you get to choose those other people. It's like, no, it's a random lottery. Otherwise you'd get raped. It's like, what? That's not a conclusion to this.
No,
How is this happening?
It was super weird.
Very strange. Very
never thought you would have that dynamic in this movie.
No. And we could, as I said, we could talk about
go on
this
that forever,
long time.
Yeah, really weird. But anyway, also a submarine, the T-232, radios into the council. It's like, hey, we need help. They're like, who is this? He's like, it's Captain Smirnoff. I was like, I like this.
That's great.
This is awesome. So they're like, they're Russian.
We gotta dock. And they're like, just a quick question, and don't worry too much about it. It's not like a test or anything, but like, do you have the virus or something?
He's like, well, a lot of people are super sick. They're like, all right, you can't come up.
It'd be better if his answer was just, well, and they're like, okay, stop there. We got the picture. You have the virus. Like, say no more. You got the virus. Like, you can't dock. And they're like, we're like a giant submarine, so we are gonna go done fuck you up, and we're gonna dock anyways.
Yeah.
And then another submarine comes on the horn,
and he's like, I'm Captain McCloud, and I'm gonna fuck those boys up.
Yeah.
And they're like, who are you? And they're like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about my accent. This is totally a British submarine. Like, you sound like a cowboy. And it's like, don't worry about it. And then he's like, are you prepared to battle? And of course, like the sick Russian's like, let me check. And he pulls out his dick. He's like, it's looking pretty sickly. Dick, don't fail me now.
It's all spotted.
And then the other guy's like, okay, how about you check out this one? It's like a real healthy dick. And you're like, oh, he has no chance, because they do. He like presses a button and they just like blow to smithereens, basically.
Yeah, they shoot this incredible missile and just goes under.
It actually goes up into the air first, and then into the water,
it goes
right?
up in the air, then
straight
down in the water, and just nails that
So
sub.
first it's an eagle, and then it becomes a fish, right?
Right.
Okay. And then, so they blow up the submarine, and everyone's like, you're a hero. And just a quick question. It's not like a test, don't worry about it, no pressure, but like, you don't have the virus, do you? And he's like, we don't have the virus. And they're like, hooray, we now have a submarine, hooray. And this kind of plays into a little bit of a dynamic of like making sure people don't go crazy a little bit, because they do a bunch of patrols all around the Earth to check on all the different spots and just make sure everyone's dead. Mm-hmm. And they radio back, they're like, everyone's dead. And like you see like Japanese people, the base or whatever, going crazy. They're like, everyone can't be dead. And then they get a radio from the submarine. It's like, everyone's dead. We checked. And they're like, okay, now I'm not crazy anymore.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's even worse. Like, you just confirm the fear.
Yeah. So,
but while they're over in Tokyo Bay, they do take an air sample just to see if the virus is still present, because they're like, hey, can we ever go back to the mainland?
And it is present.
It is.
And the scientist convinces him, though, like not to dump the sample, like to keep it contained.
Yeah.
And
he does use some good rationale here.
He does, yeah. This is good.
Because they're talking about something. He's like, well, shouldn't we be dead from all the radiation in the core of the submarine? He's like, well, no, it's totally shielded. He's like, exactly. We'll quarantine it.
And then he's like, good point. Done. Keep the sample. And it's good for them, because we'll see why a little bit later.
Oh.
So anyways, we get finally kind of focus on our Japanese hero. And he is in love with this Norwegian woman, but she has to have sex with random people because of society's laws and the laws of evolution, I guess. Whatever. But so he's like kind of pining for her, but she has to have sex with all these random people, and he never wins the lottery. He's like, oh, damn it. Didn't win the lottery where I'd be the one person out of 855 that gets to have sex with this Norwegian lady once a year and get her pregnant.
Well, and you see at the Christmas party that they're all at where this is going on, there's like a million babies already.
So many babies. The one council member clearly had a baby with like the Soviet council member. I was like, well, it seems like she got to choose.
Yeah.
That's a little bit strange. That seems like kind of random random that she just got to have sex with the other council member. And so, there's all these babies and stuff like that. And so he's pining for her. And in the midst of his pining, probably we didn't get to see the scene where he like masturbates himself while he cries to sleep. But
In the
after
shower.
that, yeah. After that scene, presumably, he then studies his earthquake maps because he's an earthquake scientist.
Yes.
And he like falls asleep studying these earthquake maps. So he doesn't have to think about his like lady love having sex with a random person.
And I'm glad they did explain stuff after a while, because this did get a little weird, because they kept going on about the earthquakes, and they're like, and this is going to happen so close to Washington, D.C. And I was like, why do we care?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, because do you remember that time when that psycho general armed all those nuclear bombs? Well, they're aimed at Russia. And I was like, again, why do we care?
Why does that care? Just blow up Russia. It's
No, like,
filled
no-
with nothing. It's literally
nobody's
filled with
there.
No one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wait, but Russia has them armed, and they're going to shoot back at the U.S. I'm like,
Still,
why?
don't care.
Why do we care?
We're in Antarctica, not in America. It's like, oh, because at the very last moment, they had suspected that some kind of big weapon was being developed in Antarctica, and so they aimed one of the missiles here. And they're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck you. God damn it.
Yeah, like why would you do that? What would we be doing down there? What kind of manufacturing are we doing in Antarctica? Are we making a big weapon?
I don't know. So anyways, they fucked everyone. And so, yeah, because he fell asleep looking at this like, map, the general guy had found it. And he's the one who brings it. And basically like, we have to stop this. I'm going to go and stop this. This is dumb. They originally do this whole thing where they're going to draw tickets to see who goes. He's like, this is dumb. I'm going. And the Japanese guy's like, I'm going too, because I can't have sex with the lady that I want. So I'm real sad. So I want to go too, which is kind of what he's saying, but he didn't actually say it in words.
Right.
He said it with eyes, and I read them.
Wow.
So anyways, he ran out into the snow with this army guy, and he's like, I'm going. And the army guy's like, you're puny and small and weak. And he's like, I'm not that weak. And then he keeps on trying to fight him, and the army guy's just like punching him in the face a whole bunch of times.
And eventually he even gets bit.
Yeah.
By the Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Ow! God damn it! Jesus Christ! He bit me.
And then eventually he just like punches him out, and he's like, it's a wonderful life, man, but like you proved it by getting your ass kicked like 1,000,000 times. You finally proved you're tough enough. So you're coming with me.
And you look at that guy, the guy who's punching him out. I never would have thought like he would have been like the toughest man alive.
No, yeah.
He's just like,
regular person.
This looks like somebody's dad.
And a little out of shape. Kind of got a dad bod a little bit going on.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But he's tough as nails.
Yeah. So anyways, they devise this plan. They're going to go up to Washington, D.C., disarm this bomb. No big deal. It's the whole system. And they're going to send all the women and children plus a bunch of people, right, onto a icebreaker, and they're going to go away? Or is it just the women and children? I can't remember. I feel like it's like a bunch of people, right?
Oh, this might explain something.
It should be everyone, but I don't know. Like, why wouldn't everyone go to Tierra del Fuego?
Is that where they went?
So weird. Yeah, they went to the bottom. They went to Chile at the bottom.
Oh my gosh! This changes my entire thought process on the end of the movie.
Yeah. They left and went to Tierra del Fuego. It seemed like it was only women and children and the scientist at the end.
Ooh,
but anyways,
we're getting there.
It should have been everyone, because why wouldn't everyone go and just like for safety go to Tierra del Fuego?
Does, dude.
But whatever.
You got to go to Antarctica.
Whatever. And so they're going off, and at the last minute, the scientist who had got the air sample is like, hey, I developed a vaccine. Don't worry about it. It works, and you should both take it. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll take it. And so they get up to Washington, D.C. after like 5 weeks or whatever.
And after an also awesome piano solo by Edward James Olmos.
Oh, yeah, he plays some music. I was wondering when that even happened. I was trying to remember back, and I was like, when did that happen? I just remembered Edward James Olmos playing a piano. Why?
Why not?
I don't know. And so they're going up, and they end up getting to Washington, D.C. And I was waiting for them to screw up the visuals here, but they actually did a pretty good job where everything's like overgrown and kind of like dead looking and stuff.
Yes.
There's like weeds everywhere and stuff like that. And they run in to the base, and they have to blow up a bunch of doors. And in the process of blowing one of the big like shelter doors open, the army guy gets trapped under some
because there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
There's an earthquake that knocks down
Yeah.
like something in the ceiling, and he gets blown up.
Yeah, so the earthquakes are already starting, and it's potentially going to go off. And he runs in. The Japanese guy runs in, and he's about to turn the thing off when the earthquake hits and the missiles launch. So he's like, literally, I'm waiting that he's going to be the hero. And he's like, nope, the missiles launch. The straight up missiles launch.
Yeah.
And everyone, like literally everyone dies.
Yeah. Well, and you flash forward 4 years later.
So anyways, you think he might have died, but then it turns out he was in the shelter that deep underground. So he survived the blast. I'm not sure how he survived the radiation levels.
I was wondering that too.
But anyways, maybe the vaccine kind of works in that way. Like it kind of shields
It was
you from
kind of
radiation.
radioactive, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the thing. It had something to do with radiation, so I'm wondering if that was kind of the explanation. It shields you against radiation, plus the virus can't survive that. So like everything's like kind of puts you in a level of radiation already that kills the virus. So he was like, okay. And he starts walking it takes him 4 years to walk all the way down from Washington, D.C. down to Chile. And he like stops a bunch of times. But anyways, we see
he kind of loses his mind.
Yeah, he's going crazy.
He's like
he's
talking through
people.
subtitles to a skeleton.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on?
Well, no, that's like a Tuesday for me. But
Yeah.
I talk to the skeleton in my basement using subtitles all the time.
Well, you have to. Otherwise, people would hear you.
Yeah. I don't want them to hear me talking to my skeleton. He's walking down there, and you see a very quick scene of like the women and children and the scientists like sitting in like a house, and they're like, we should take the icebreaker up north. And they're like, no, we're just going to die from the virus, asshole. Like, why would we do that? It's like, I have a vaccine.
He's like, I've given it to all of you.
We don't fucking believe you, okay? You're a fucking crazy scientist. Get out of here. And then they're like, wait, who's that? And this guy comes out, and the Norwegian woman's like, oh my God, it's my love, and runs to him. And that's the end of the movie because it proves like the vaccine works and they're going to be able to go and repopulate the earth, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea. Although they don't have as many men anymore, so I guess they don't have to have those weird arcane raping rules anymore.
Well, just all the women on the man.
In fact, there's only almost too many women.
Is there such a thing?
So now he's going to have sex. He's going to have to go against his instincts and have sex with a whole bunch of women. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Oh, I had a joke here about how he walked 500 miles and then he walked 500 more to be the man who walked 1,000 miles right up to her front door.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
So good.
Thank you.
All right. That's that whole movie. Alex. Now, Alex, you didn't even watch all of it.
I didn't finish all of it, no.
You didn't or did?
Did not.
Did not. How far did you get into it?
What were we talking about? The last scene I saw was when they were all in a room fighting about.
Oh, okay. So right before the rape delegation.
Yeah, and it was after I watched the submarine attack, which was about all of the submarine action that we got in the movie, from what I recall.
It's true. That was most of the submarine. That was the best submarine action for sure.
Yeah, it was. So, based on what you saw, what would you give this movie as a rating?
The story was okay, not very believable, I guess, but some parts of it I did believe, like the governments were or the military was trying to weaponize something like this. I could understand, but from what I saw, about a 5, just pretty average.
All right.
Wasn't bad. I would have liked to finished it. It was very slow to me, and obviously not a lot of submarine stuff, so I'm glad I at least watched that. But it was fine. Yeah, I'm sure.
It is funny because it did have it has a really, really great poster, which is like a submarine in like kind of orange and red and kind of in black. And it is probably like the best submarine poster we have of any of the films, but it is, and there is like submarine focus in terms of it being the hero a little bit or part of the heroics of it. But otherwise there's not a huge amount of like physical submarine in the film. So yeah, what about you, Zach?
I didn't mind it. It's kind of like out there, but at the same time, it's not. I thought it was neat just how they kind of how it focused on Antarctica so much. You just don't see too many movies do that. When it was happening, I kept thinking of that one game. What is it called? Pandemic, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they should be able to shut down the different areas, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I kept thinking about.
Madagascar is not getting
exactly
virus.
Right. So, I mean, but it's a movie. It's entertaining. Not bad. What was it? 1980. So
1980, Japanese film.
Yeah, Japanese film. So it wasn't bad for a Japanese film from 1980. I mean, what was that? That's Empire Strikes Back, so it had a lot to compete with, but it was good. 6.5.
All right.
Very nice. Okay. I kind of want to go last because you already did your score on the different interview, right?
I did.
So why don't you throw yours out there then?
All right. This movie, I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I saw in it. I thought it was a cool storyline. The stuff with the whole women and men and the rape stuff.
You're going to have to ignore it a little bit.
Weird.
Yeah, it's going to be something that may be a little troublesome.
Yeah, that was really weird. I don't agree with that.
No.
But
On
for
the
me-
record, right, Kyle?
on the
Yeah,
record.
it's a controversial opinion, but
but I'm not going to.
You know,
I'm not going to agree with
the
it.
Submersion, the hosts of Submersion do not support rape.
Yeah.
It's a controversial opinion.
Yeah. And just deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So the storyline was cool. I would really actually like to see this movie remade. I think it could be done extremely well.
I mean, there's been some that have come out in the last bunch of years that are not too dissimilar from the
They got any
ideas.
submarines, though?
They do not. You're right.
There you go.
Good point. They could really up that submarine action.
They could.
Gerard Butler, just get him in there.
Woo!
It's ready to go.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 5.25.
Wow, it's actually a little lower than I thought you would have went.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I would have probably given this a 7. I enjoyed the storyline, kind of how they thought through. I'm going to take a little 0.5 off for that weird defensive rape that happened in the middle of it. Not super keen on that. I think it's based on some pretty weird and bad readings of science, like evolutionary science of sorts. I think this argument continues to today, but I think it's pretty flimsy. This idea of like rape being part of like reproduction and like being something that like the loser class of an animal species, it's like their only choice of like, perpetuating their genes or whatever. Like it's pretty flimsy and definitely wouldn't be something that you would be super keen on having be like the basis of a new government of the United States or of the world.
Of the world or the population
Just not
of the
great.
world?
Just not a good thing. And it's just like, no, I mean, I'm not super keen on this. It's very much like a misogynistic viewpoint of like using science and rationale to be like, who aren't we rational thinkers? And I'd be like, no, yeah, that's like the worst possible argument. You just made terrible arguments.
Right.
We're going to take a little 0.5 off of that for that kind of shit. But otherwise, like, I thought it was pretty cool what was done. I thought it looked, pretty interesting and nice a lot of the times. I kept on waiting for them to screw up something to be like, oh, look at that. That looks silly and dumb. But they never really had anything that looked like super silly and dumb. And when they had to have a scene where people were dead or you're seeing dead bodies or you're seeing something overgrown or whatever, they did a pretty good job of it. And the storyline itself was, fine. But so I would have given it a pretty high 7's pretty high.
Yeah.
Take that 0.5 off for a little defensive rape. Hard to defend.
Yeah. So 6.5 for you, huh?
Yeah, 6.5.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, came in
hot.
Yeah.
Wait, was this higher or lower than... No, was it Latitude Zero that we were going pretty high on?
No, you guys were going what I would consider low.
Okay.
I gave it an 8. You guys were on 6s.
Yeah, so I feel like Latitude Zero got like pretty good love on this show, but
because it's freaking awesome.
Okay, it does have a lion that's like has a human brain. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm going to do a little bit of trivia for you guys on this guy. So Haruki Kadokawa was the heir to a major publishing empire, and he decided to enter the film business in the mid-70s when he took over the business. And he was kind of this very eccentric, flamboyant guy and kind of this young guy. His dad had been this very like stodgy and they made a very serious publishing business. And he was like, we're going to go straight into film. And the whole idea was to taking things that had been novels and turning them into novels that they owned and turning them into these big feature films that would eventually have an audience in the US as well. So they had a couple huge hits in Japan called like the Inugamis and Proof of the Man. And so he started to, do these. And by 1992, 7 of the top 20 all-time highest box office grossing Japanese films were productions by this guy.
Seriously?
So, yeah. And eventually he was pushed out of the company because he was convicted of drug smuggling, feeding a cocaine addiction that he had, getting cocaine from the United States.
Did he do it in a narco sub?
I do not believe so. I think he did it through an assistant, and that's how he got caught. He's like, he went to
never trust your assistant.
He was like, hey, my assistant, can you get me some cocaine from the United States? And the assistant was like, I'll try. And then got caught and was like, he asked me to. And then he went to jail for like 4 years. So anyways, Kadokawa put 2 million yen into this film, making it the most expensive film at the time in Japanese history. It was supposed to be his big breakthrough into the international market. And he tried to ensure the success by casting a bunch of U.S. Stars. I would say stars in quotations a little bit. They were kind of older stars a little bit, cowboy type people and TV stars and stuff like that. And he did a huge amount of promotion. So it was a huge flop. It was released, or it had a 155-minute long cut that was shown at the Cannes Film Festival. That was supposed to be the American version of release.
Yeah.
But it wasn't finished. Eventually they cut it down to like 109 minutes or something. I think that's 100 Or 109 minutes or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
That's what we had, like 149 minutes or an hour and 49 minutes.
Yeah, because when I originally got this, I had to get it through a lending program.
Yeah.
Like, we can't get our hands on the 3-hour long one. I'm like, good. I don't want that one.
Well, apparently it's available just for free to view online.
That one is?
The one, 155-minute long one.
Oh, wow.
So you can just find it.
Great.
We didn't watch that one. We watched the one that was eventually shown in the United States, but it didn't even get a release. It just was shown sporadically in some special showings, and then was eventually shown on TV and stuff like that. So the interior shots for the two submarines were actually the same submarine. They were filmed aboard the Canadian submarine HMCS Okanagan, and that's the same one. You may recognize that name. Same one that was in the Neptune Factor.
Oh, Alex's favorite movie.
Yeah. So that one, it was mentioned in the Neptune Factor too. Oh, we got the Okanagan in your vicinity. Like, they'll go and help.
Yep.
The Chilean Navy gave strong support to the filming of this movie. Two submarines, the outside of the submarines, were the same submarine. There is CNS Simpson, originally the USS Spot. It was a Palau-class submarine that was originally in the U.S. fleet. It was given to the Chilean Navy. And it got some international publicity when a Swedish ship, the MS Lindbald Explorer, which was transporting the production unit to Antarctica for some of the filming, struck a reef and almost sank. And the Chilean Navy came and saved them.
Dang.
Yeah, so they were pretty heavily involved. And then finally, Haruki Kadokawa originally wanted John Frankenheimer to direct. Now, who would have done well in this film from other Frankenheimer films? Now, before I even get into that, though, quick Frankenheimer impressions. Go.
Hey, yo, I'm John Frankenheimer. What's up?
It's like he's in the room. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
You should see him. His face actually came and transformed. He looked just like Frankenheimer for a second. I was like, whoa! Oh, shit. It was really scary, actually.
Dude, Zach does a really good Frankenheimer impersonation.
I don't do that anymore, Kyle. Come on.
Oh,
Come
shit.
on, dude.
Fire. No, isn't that Frankenstein? Ayo. Good joke, right? Good joke, right? Anyways.
Alex, you got one?
No.
Not into it.
Well, fuck me running.
No.
I guess it's just me doing Frankenheimer.
It was really good, though. So
Thanks.
congratulations. Okay, so what are these other actors from Frankenheimer films, whether they will do well in this film? Val Kilmer from The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Ooh. Dude, he would have been good as like the guy that went to DC, the tough guy.
Yeah.
Back in this time.
Yeah.
Not now.
Not now. He's
Like,
tough right now.
so like skinny Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
Skinny Val Kilmer before...
Or in shape?
I think
before he had
he's
cancer.
getting in shape for the Top Gun sequel, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I saw him in a movie called The Snowman, and it was some rough stuff. I gotta tell you. That was last year. It was a movie from last year. It was not good. Okay, what about Gene Hackman, who was in The French Connection 2?
I put him as the admiral, like the guy who's running the whole
Antarctica?
council thing.
I think he could have been the president, too. Doesn't he? He plays the president in something. Oh, Welcome to Mooseport. That's right. Yeah, he plays the president.
Welcome to Mooseport.
So it could have been just that. It could have just been set in Mooseport, the first part of the film, and then the rest of it down in Antarctica.
You would
what
need
about-
Ray Romano somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Ray Romano's definitely in there. Ray Romano is the political opponent, obviously, just like in Welcome to Mooseport. Get out of here.
Or would Ray Romano be the Japanese guy with the love interest?
I can't do it. I can't do Ray Romano impression. I can't do it, though. Even in my head, I can hear his voice in my head. I just can't mimic it. Ugh. Anyways, I'm ashamed. Robert De Niro, Ronin.
Oh.
De
There's
Niro.
some good people here.
Yeah, he's directed a lot of good people.
Who would I put him as? Who would you guys put him as?
If I had to,
You have to, yes.
the scientist that goes crazy at the beginning. Even though he wasn't crazy.
Yeah, so you'd only give him like a little cameo in the film, huh?
Yep, that's all he gets.
Nice. What about Ben Affleck in Reindeer Games?
That's a serious movie?
Yeah, Reindeer Games. You never heard of Reindeer Games?
No.
Never seen
His
it,
na-
Kyle? That's
His character, do you know what his character's name is?
I
Blitzen?
can't remember.
Rudolph. There you go. It's
Seriously?
Rudy, yeah. So Rudolph, and because he's Reindeer Games. Yeah, I think he'd be the Japanese guy. I mean, he'd be the character that kind of is like the young guy. He's like pining for this woman, but he's going to be like the hero, and then he walks 1,000 miles to be at his love's front door.
Yeah, and Val Kilmer's punching him.
Oh, for sure. And then what about Ed Harris, who's in The French Connection 3, even more French?
Ooh. Now, Ed Harris would be the tough guy. but he'd be on screen a lot more.
Yeah.
For sure. He'd have to be on the screen a whole bunch, right?
Yeah.
And then what would he
Or
do?
he could be the sub-captain. Reprise his role.
I think actually it would be good if he was a tough guy, because then they'd go in and he'd blow the door off, right? And then the earthquake would happen and all this stuff would fall on top of him.
And his
they'd be
abs just like unpenetrable.
He'd come over and be like, "Oh man, I got to get you out of here." He's like, "I can just slip right out." And he slips right out. And it's like, I covered in grease. Get out of here. I am at Harris. And he'd go and turn off the bomb and be like, "Yeah, that's how we do
Dude,
it."
it's that easy.
Actually, he tried to turn off the bomb and it's all slippery. He's got grease all over his hands. He can't do it. And then the bomb's launched. He's like, shit.
I like that.
All right. So Phantom Zone.
Engage the Phantom.
Phantoms engaged, sir.
Now, I started writing a program to actually do these Phantom Zones for me, but I think it actually made it worse, because now I can go like a million times in a row. Like, no movie doesn't have like a million ways you can go. Yeah. So I just kept on going and going and going. So I'm going to start out with Glenn Ford. Now, he played President Richardson. I love made up presidents in films, kind of this idea that he was elected, and trying to think of like, I wonder what he was like on the campaign trail and how he got elected by the American people. But also because he was in a whole bunch of submarine films. So he's in Torpedo Run, The Flying Missile, and Destroyer. And so I could just finish this off pretty easily by going to Torpedo Run, which Borgnine, but nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do Destroyer. So in Destroyer, Regis Toomey was in that, and he was in a bunch of classic submarine films as well. And that includes Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, starring Walter Pidgeon, who was also in The Neptune Factor, our favorite film. Now, Yvette Mimieux was in that film, but also in a TV movie called The Fifth Missile. So she was actually in 2 submarine films against all odds. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It has a bunch of famous people in it, but one of those people that isn't famous is Jeff Harding. He's in that and the 1997 version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So there's another 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
How did I not know about that?
So he plays Ned Land in that version. He's also in a Canadian production, another one of our favorites. Love those Canadian films, called Buried on Sunday. The star of that film was Jeremy Ackerman, who was in K-19 The Widowmaker. So we're getting pretty close.
Yeah.
That features Lex Shrapnel, his real name.
That's not like fake.
Lex Shrapnel. That's his name.
That's amazing.
That is. And who was in Thunderbirds, which also features Dmitry Goritsas, who was also in X-Men First Class. And that features Jason Beggy, who was in Phantom.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a whole completely new cycle that I did with this new computer program. But I'm going to try to shore it up so I can get like real quick ones rather than these like long winded.
These long ones are fun too.
Still pretty impressive.
Real quick and through like high. I want to kind of limit the number of credits you have to go through, right? Like, so like if it was top credit, it'd be something like The Abyss. Top credit is Ed Harris. Yeah. And that jumps to top credit at Ed Harris and Phantom. I'd like to get it so you try to minimize the number of credits that you have to go through. So if you had to go through like credit one, that's 4. And the average would be 1 credit, top credit per movie or whatever.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds like some next level stuff. Again, I thoroughly believe that you need to write some kind of thesis, and
there is actually a journal out there for like useless research. So I knew someone in grad school who wrote an algorithm for seating people at weddings and published it online through this journal. And then
how is that useless?
No, but it's just like, it's not under any like actual umbrella of real research or whatever. So this could technically be something where it'd be like an algorithm to find for these keywords or whatever, the easiest route or whatever from one movie to another. All of them having this one like keyword, submarines being the example that I would use. So
I could get pretty crazy if we have a publication out of this podcast.
I would 100% not give you an authorship. Get out of here.
I don't care. I didn't write any of it.
I'd give you an acknowledgement. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Maybe like a inspiration credit or something.
No, I'd be like acknowledgement, discussions with Kyle Smith. Oh, sorry. You got to bleep that out. Do you use your full name on this?
It's a fake name.
Okay.
Anyways, it's time for Subs Worldwide. It's subs worldwide. So, week 3 of Japanese Movie Month. Got to continue the trend of doing Japanese subs. The Soryu class is a diesel electric, and this submarine is newer. It was launched in 2009. Has a special X-shaped stern. Special X-shaped stern fins that allow it to operate extremely close to the seabed. It has some computer-aided controls that allow it to maneuver quite well. So the length 275 feet.
Bomb, that's long. I like that.
Yeah. Speed, while it's surface, it can only go 13 knots. Don't worry, you dive under, you're going 20 knots. Operational depth, 1,640 and a half feet.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Down to the half foot?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. But then crush depth.
Did they actually, when you looked it up, because I'm seeing that it has 2 decimal points. Did they have 2 decimal points when you looked up this data? We have 1,640.50 feet. So down to the second decimal place? My God.
Yeah. So crush depth was 2,953 feet.
That sounds like they actually
way lower.
And not only that, that's very specific. Did they actually? They were like, okay, lower another foot, still not crushed. Lower another foot, still not crushed.
Yeah.
Lower another foot, now it's crushed.
Yeah.
That's crushed depth.
Yeah. I don't know how they test that exactly. 4 engines generate 5,950 horsepower. The crew holds 65 people with 9 officers. For weapons, it has 6 533 millimeter torpedo tubes. Can hold either 30 Type 89 torpedoes or 30 Harpoon anti-ship missiles. It is said that due to the advancement in the lithium-ion batteries that this sub might just go to electric propulsion totally one day.
Wow.
But I don't know how you would charge them back up. Wow. The first class, this actually is the first sub in Japanese history to break naming convention. So most of them were named after ocean currents. However, with these...
That seems really lame. That's extra lame.
Yeah. But then they went super badass with it and went with mythological creatures.
They're going to have to do that. That's amazing. I like mythical creatures.
So the very first one was the Blue Dragon.
Great. Love it.
Then we have the Cloud Dragon.
I like that one better. I like cloud dragons. It makes me think that it's a dragon made of clouds.
It could be. Then we have the White Dragon.
Okay.
The Sword Dragon.
That's cool. So it's made of swords.
It is.
Nice.
The Auspicious Dragon.
That's interesting.
I was like, I wouldn't want to be
I
on
got
that
to
one.
pull out my dictionary for this one.
Yeah.
Let's see what's happening.
The Black Dragon. Benevolent Dragon. Red Dragon. Pure Dragon.
Interesting.
And Soaring Dragon.
So they're just all dragons.
What's your top one?
dragons.
Guys, what's your top one of that list?
What one would you want to be on?
White dragon.
Yeah.
I'm going Cloud Dragon. I love that one.
I mean, sword dragon's pretty cool too.
Sword is pretty good, yeah.
I like to keep it classic and go Red Dragon.
That's pretty good.
Or Black Dragon's good too.
What's your
Probably
last
also-
one? My last one's Benevolent Dragon. Get out of here.
I think Auspicious Dragon.
I don't
is
want
my
that.
last.
I don't want that dragon. I don't
probably-
want my sub to be benevolent. I want it to be. I want
If
it
you
to
could ride
crush its
around in
enemies.
that thing, and it was called Red Dragon, you get some good flames going on that.
Oh, that's
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, paint
Yeah.
paint those flames on it.
Yeah. So anyways, they've got 14 of these planned to be built. 8 are currently in commission and 1 is launched and just like in testing phases. And Japan was actually going to manufacture some of these for Australia, and Australia did find them extremely impressive. They ultimately went with the French short fin Barracudas.
Probably got it for a better price.
Maybe.
They might
'Cause,
be
dude, how can you
pricey.
turn on a dragon for a Barracuda?
This actually reminds me too, as part of the trivia or whatever, I said it was a Chilean sub that was seen from the outside or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see it like floating around Antarctica. It was really in Antarctica doing a bunch of stuff. So they were like filming it down there. But it was also because it was from the US and had been in like World War II and stuff like that, and then given to the Chilean service, and that was 1980, and it continued in service for several years after that.
Yeah.
It was, according to Wikipedia, who never lies, as we know, it was the last sub working that had a deck gun.
Really?
Yeah, it was the last one like actually out on active duty with a deck gun.
That's pretty slick.
Now none of them have that kind of stuff. So.
Lame.
Yeah.
Probably creates a lot of drag, I would think. Up
I
top.
think what they found, what I had read at some point when I was looking at that kind of stuff, is that they just never were used. Like there was never really a situation in which you like jumped up onto the deck and used your deck gun. So like they decided to start stripping it away because it was useless. Like no one used it.
Well, you think about it now with the advancements in subs and stuff, where they can stay submerged much longer. It would make more sense for those earlier ones.
You're
You
cruising
know, you
around,
just kind of
don't
like,
have a ship.
yeah, you just kind of dive to get away from stuff. But all right, Alex, you got any sweet news for us?
There is never any good submarine news anymore.
Tough times.
Make submarine news
It
good.
is.
What is it? Make submarine news great again.
Yeah. That'd be nice, because then this would make this a hell of a lot more interesting for people listening. First thing I found, the Navy's building a new ballistic missile submarine that is truly stealth. So, I guess all the other ones aren't stealthy. I'm not. I have no clue. Anyways, it's a new class of submarines, is what they're saying, and they're somehow going to try to rig this up. I'm sure you'll talk about this one day, but some sort of new electric motor that's going to be more efficient and more quieter, is what they're saying. I don't know how it works.
Is it the Columbia class?
It might be. Yeah, Columbia class. Yep. Have you talked about that yet?
No, I have not. Are they, all right, does it have any info on there? So is it like nuclear powered, but then they're going to use this electric motor or something? Or are they diesel electric?
Yeah, it says using an electric motor optimizes use of installed reactor power in a more efficient way.
Oh.
So they can do that. There's also an essay, if you're really worried about it. It's called Evaluation and Comparison of Electric Propulsion Motors for Submarines. And this is definitely someone we should get on our show sometime. His name is Joel Harbour. So
is that a real name?
Yeah, Joel Harbour. Yep.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. And then I found another fun one, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this early on, long ass time ago. But the Russians are back to tampering with the undersea cables again.
Are they really?
Yep, this is what it's saying. So this one went a little bit more in detail, though, about what they actually can do. And it actually had some history about it. And it says that people actually, in times of war, would tamper with the transatlantic cables from even all the way back in World War I. Now, I didn't know that, so that was actually kind of interesting to read that. And then they were saying that the Russians don't have, there's different kinds of cables under there is what they're saying. And there's one that NATO uses and there's one that the Pentagon uses. Why the Pentagon one's underwater, I have no clue. So, but anyways, there's a way, supposedly U.S. ships have a way to get into these cables and they can hack it or control it from there, is basically what this article is saying. And they said that the Russians don't have that capability. So what they got to do then, since they can't hack it, they just got to go down there and destroy it. And they said the submarines can do it, but then they also have smaller subs, 3-people subs, that fit onto a research vessel to disguise it, and then they just drop it down there and go destroy it from there.
Oh, so just down there cutting cables.
Yep. So
such a funny game.
It is. They said that someone cut one before. It was an accidental cutting. I don't know how it was accidental, but in 2008, and it crippled the U.S. drone operations in Iraq for several days. So
really,
yeah. So I don't know how they're able to get down there and fix it that quick. I'm sure if you can go down there and destroy it with this mini submarine, you could probably fix it. But I wouldn't think it would be easy at all.
No,
so
no kidding. Piecing together a cable like that underwater?
Yeah.
How many miles of cable do you think are under the water right now?
I'd say millions.
It's a fair estimate.
I really have no idea.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to grossly underestimate like how much horse is eaten in Japan.
Yeah, you did.
Like that.
Yeah.
So did you see this article about did you mention the one about the submarine that was vandalized? Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
In Hackensack?
Hackensack, yeah. Did you talk about that one?
I think
no, I didn't actually. I read the news article on it. I was trying to think if we did, but no, I have not.
Think so, right? Yeah, Hackensack submarine USS Ling apparently flooded intentionally, and then the memorial plaques were stolen. I literally cannot find in any of these articles what the motivation for that would be. They're saying vandals got on, and they're claiming that these vandals must have known the workings of the submarine because they opened pretty specifically like the bilge tanks and stuff like that
to flood it,
and then they stole these plaques that are worth like $10,000 each or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I guess I could steal these plaques, but who are you gonna sell these fucking plaques to? Like,
yeah, then you know they're stolen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah,
I think the sub is also. It was a museum, but it ran out of funding, so it's just been sitting there, and it says it's too expensive to move it, right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying in this thing. So they basically went and they sold the land. The land has been sold already to make into like a residential, like apartment building, I think.
That'd be pretty cool. Look at your apartment, there's just a sub sitting there, and you're like, oh yeah.
But they haven't, they don't have the funds to move the submarine, so they've been trying to figure out how to do that, and now it gets like flooded, and it's going to cost like thousands of dollars to,
oh yeah,
get the water out and like fix it back up. That's
vandals.
terrible. You know, we should get it here.
Yeah,
What do you think?
could do that.
Yeah, we get it into the river or something like that.
Can you like transport it over the road? How would you get it?
Dude,
Put it on a train or something like that. Could just fly our helicopter over there too. Do you want to just fly that one over there and pick it up?
I don't have one yet.
You don't have the helicopter? What happened to it?
Brown's borrowing it. That's why he is.
That's where he is. Damn it.
Well, we needed somebody to go pick him up because I know we give him a hard time, but we needed somebody to rescue him after we ejected him.
I see. Damn it. Okay, well, we don't have our submarine picking up helicopter. It's a giant helicopter. You should see it.
Yeah.
It's actually 600 feet long.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's more of like an airship or like a dirigible.
But bigger.
Yeah.
How big would those wings or blades have to be for that?
Oh, we could
Propeller.
check when it comes back.
Millions.
We'll just we'll measure it when it comes back.
It's huge, dude.
All right. Do we have everyone's favorite?
It's my favorite.
Zac Facts.
No. Zac Facts, it's Zac Facts. When you're going down, get some Zac Facts when you're going down.
Oh,
Just kidding.
That's Zac Facts.
So we'll just cut it there.
The episode
No.
is just-
Boom.
That's it. That would be a funny way to end an episode, actually.
Yeah, go through all of like the things, and then after you say like follow us on Twitter, and then we put the Zac Facts after that. It's for the true listeners.
Yeah, I've only got a few this week. There weren't too many Zac Facts for this. Zac Facts for Virus. The film, when it was released in North Korea, they made the North Koreans appear immune to the virus, thus saving the world after everyone died.
I would love to watch that version of that movie.
Sounds like great North Korean propaganda.
In some ways, it would actually be possible, right? Because not too many people are coming in and out of North Korea.
That's true.
That's true.
That is true.
They never checked. They never set the sub over in North Korea.
It actually would have been a really funny scene with the U.S. president being like, oh, if only we had more time, if someone could survive this virus. And they look at each other like, North Korea. And they come up and like, hey, North Korea. And like, hey, you guys, have you had the virus? Like, we don't know what you're talking about.
We literally don't talk to anyone.
No, we're just here. What are you talking about? What's happening?
All right. And the only other Zac fact for the week. Sorry, there's only two.
What?
I know.
I got another one. Jamie Lee Curtis only agreed to do this film after learning that it was not the 1980 version. Wait, what's happening? Anyways.
That's a great one. No, this next one's pretty simple. This movie, Virus, inspired James Cameron to write Titanic.
Oh.
This one.
Yeah. He said it in
makes
an
sense.
interview.
It does make sense because at the end of Titanic, when Jack shows up having walked 4,000 miles, after, he floated for a while on that board for about 80 years or whatever, and then he shows up at the very end.
80 years.
After walking to the ship, and he finally reunites with Rose on the deck of that ship.
Was he living off of like seaweed and sea turtles and
Yeah,
stuff?
mostly kelp.
Oh, okay.
And he became friends with a whale, and that whale helped him survive.
Oh,
He
that's
learned
cool.
whale language. He actually mostly talked in subtitles to whales most of the time.
Wonderful.
Is that the director's cut of that movie?
The director, do you ever see them? Do you ever hear what the director's cut of that movie actually was?
No.
This is not even a Zac fact. It was that Rose was going to commit suicide at the end. It's like this kind of thrillery ending where they find her like standing on the edge of the boat, like kind of she's climbed over the railing or whatever, and she's about to jump off, and they're like, Rose, you don't have to do this kind of stuff, and they try to convince her to
I think they actually filmed that scene, didn't they?
Yeah, they filmed it. Yeah, you can see it.
I
You
saw
can see it
that.
online. Yeah. It's crazy. It's like a really weird tonal shift, like at the very end of this film, at the end of the movie.
Dang.
Yeah, and
I would have liked the
redid
movie
it.
a lot better.
She's got a gun all of a sudden. It's like, ew. Like, Rose, you don't have to do this.
At Mac East Second Floor Studios, sometimes we don't have all the answers. In dire times like this, we've decided to call in the very best. Welcome to an interview with an expert. So here we are with an interview with an expert, and tonight we have Nick Palodichuk from the St. Paul Filmcast. How you doing tonight?
Great. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to being on this podcast. This is I've been listening to you guys since you guys actually started. So thanks for having me.
Dang.
Yeah.
You're one of the few.
Well, I consider myself movie savvy. I've watched a lot of movies. I've, went to film school and stuff. But you guys find movies I've never heard of. It's really fascinating. It's also aggravating because I think I know movies, and then you bring up one I've never heard of that. I have to see that.
Well, then I'm on the other opposite end of the spectrum, I guess, because there's a lot of very popular movies that I've never even seen, and I know all these really weird, obscure ones, like the one for tonight. But I mean, whatever.
Right. Well, it kind of explains how we got in the situation we did, because we were going to watch a movie called Virus. Well.
For our listeners, there are a few movies called Virus.
There are, yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later, but I met Nick. He brought Jamie and myself onto his show, and we talked about Popeye, which is a very unique, strange movie starring Robin Williams, and we had a heck of a time going up to his place and recording an episode there. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I try to keep it the studio space perfect for everybody. We get quite a few guests come on the St. Paul Filmcast, and I do have pictures on our Instagram accounts of the studio. It's all littered with comic books, and everybody's just amazed when they come in there. And sometimes they get distracted too, because I ask them a question and they're sitting looking at the wall and yeah. But yeah, you guys it was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was nice. Actually, fun to get to meet you guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's always great to meet other local podcasters. I don't know how many of us there really are, but it's nice.
Yeah.
And so you just mentioned comic books, and if I'm not mistaken, you are working on one, are you not?
Yeah, this is kind of weird because I'm going to critique a movie called Virus that came out in 1999. It's actually based on a comic book. And then I'm actually coming out this fall, so in a couple months, of my own comic book, my first ever, my own comic book called The Greenway. And so we're going to be submitting it in a couple weeks for publication. Takes place in 1968 in St. Paul. It's a gritty murder mystery kind of a thing, very film noir, dark, brooding characters and stuff like that. So it's kind of a style I really like, and I kind of like murder mysteries. So of course I'm going to put those all together. So.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah, I've been working on this book for about 10 years. And now we got to the point that we're finally able to get it published. It's just so many rewrites and rewriting till they get to...
Yeah.
Yeah, which sadly these movies were critiqued didn't do any rewriting.
Yeah, there could have been some rewrites. So you write the story, do you do all the illustration and stuff too?
Yeah. Yeah, because I wrote the script, and I'm not a really good writer per se. It's not my natural thing to do, so I wanted to write a story, and that's what took so long. Is I actually did research about 1968 real events, so it took about 3 years of just researching, because I wasn't alive in 1968, so I had to do a lot of extensive researching and look at old photographs and events and what St. Paul looked like, and then the story. It took a lot of time to develop a story that I felt comfortable releasing out to the world, and that happened about 2015 when I was done with it. Now I've started to draw it, and it's all ready to go. We're only releasing the first book, so there's other 2 books coming. So we're releasing book 1 coming in a couple months, and then following by book 2.
That's awesome.
Actually, I was drawing on book 2 as I stopped drawing. I was working on it right now, and I stopped just to podcast with you.
Oh, shoot. Well, I hope that you weren't on a really on a good tangent, because I don't know if you want to interrupt it for something like this.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, I got to get, sometimes you got to get away, and all of a sudden you look at your clock. Yeah. So sometimes when you're in a creative mode, time escapes. It's almost like video games, right? When you play video games, you're like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I've done that many times. So you have your own podcast. You want to tell people what that's about?
Yes, I've done podcasts before, but this one called the St. Paul Filmcast started in late March, and we concentrate not just on big scale critique of movies. We critique large, people would recognize titles, but we also try to provide a platform so we can interview and discuss independent filmmakers from Minnesota.
It's been cool. You've had a lot of really good guests on there.
Yeah, we've had, it's surprising a lot of them were nice enough to say yes. We have some people that have never podcast before, and I've actually said it's not like radio. We don't lead the jingle, but you just come in here and kind of in a nice, comfortable setting, and you just get to talk about you and all your promotions, and it's turned out really well, actually. I'm really surprised that the independent filmmaking community here in Minnesota is really, really phenomenal, and the people are really wonderful. They're very approachable and happy to discuss their projects. It's been a wonderful experience so far.
That's great. Yeah, and you release, I mean, gosh, it feels like 4 episodes a week or something. So, so people are looking for something with fresh new content all the time. Check out St. Paul Filmcast. It's great.
And I would say that we just released a new one, but our latest episode, we were nice enough to have United States Hockey Hall of Fame member Henry Boucher. He's from Warroad, Minnesota. Come on my podcast, talk about his life. He was a professional hockey player. He played professional hockey for 6 years, and he's on the Olympic team. And he was nice enough. He came down and he was talking about his passion project, which is a film. He's going to get made. He doesn't. It takes time. It's going to be made, but it's a passion project of his. And it's a documentary on Native American Olympic athletes.
Wow, that's got to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think it's an area of investigation that people don't really know about. That how many people that are Native Americans actually compete for the United States in the Winter Olympics and Summer Olympics. That they actually excelled.
That's great. That'll be really interesting to watch and good to learn about.
Yeah, hopefully he gets it out in a couple of years. In fact, he has like high school students working with him, researching for finding more people. So,
oh, that's cool. I never got to do anything like that in high school. Did you?
No, I know, right? Yeah, right.
No, mine was always, oh, hey, let's do some math. Come on.
I can't laugh at too hard. I married a math teacher.
Okay, all right. Didn't mean to bash her.
No. We all know it. I mean, even we all, yeah, I know. I get her mad by, when after dinner and I get the check, I was like, here, you like numbers, crunch those.
Oh, by the way, you got to pay for it too.
Yeah, you got. Yeah.
Oh man, so should we get into these movies?
Yeah, which because I want to make a clarification. We both watched a movie called Virus, but there's 2 different movies. I think there's about 4 movies called Virus technically, but when you said what's research about a movie called Virus, I immediately went to the 1990 film. To it.
Yes.
You did a different one. Which one did you do?
I went to the 1980 Japanese submarine movie Virus.
Which fits your podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
How did you find out about this movie?
How do I find out about any of these movies? Really, I just sit there and I Google submarine movies, and you just you try to pick up on anything. I mean, you get like a million results. Obviously you're going to start seeing Das Boot and Hunt for Red October. Those pop up immediately, but you gotta dig a little bit deeper, especially when you're getting into some of this weird stuff.
All right, so from 1980, it's from Japan, right?
Yes.
What? How do you say it in Japanese, you think?
How do you say virus? I would probably sound offensive if I tried to say it.
How did you were able to get a copy? Did you order it or
the local library? They
no kidding. The local library strikes again, huh?
Yeah, they'll get it for me, man. Anything across the country, if somebody's got it, they'll send it to me.
And from 1980, did it look a little bit dated, or did it look kind of documentary, kind of a style? What kind of look to it really gravitated to you?
It looked worse than movies from like the 50s and stuff that I've seen. I don't know what was going on with it over there, but it did not look that good. How about the movie you watched from 99? How did that look?
Virus is one of the from 1999, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland with William Baldwin, is considered one of the worst movies that came out in 1999. In fact, it came out in January of 1999, and it held that title throughout the whole year.
Oh,
one of the worst movies. It gets us, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like a 9%.
It's that low?
Yeah, just a 9%. I think it's a saturated field because it's one of those movies where the scavenger boat crew comes across a desolate big ship and they're going to scavenge for parts, and something ominous is on the big boat, but they don't want to give it up because it's a moneymaker, right? If they scavenge for parts, they're big millionaires.
Yeah.
Then the monster slowly picks them off, of course, one by one by one, and then there's only 2 left. It's a formula that we've seen many times before, but actually done a lot better.
Well, I feel super bad then that I made you sit through this movie with a 9%. That's borderline punishment.
It's actually because it's actually based on a comic book called Virus. Chuck Paffer, who's written a lot of screenplays, and it's his first, I think, his comic book. He wrote it, and it's not hard to transfer writing screenplays to screenplays from comic books. It's the same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You're just writing dialogue. And Dark Horse published Virus, and I think about 1998. And right when it got published, the film rights were picked up and the movie was made almost immediately right after the book was published. And it has the same kind of premise. In the book, it's a deserted Chinese cargo ship. In the movie, it's Russian. But
okay.
Almost all the other things of the movie is kind of like we see in the book. And of course, the alien is of electronic energy, so he picks up machine parts and he's assembling cyborgs to do his bidding. It's almost like a Bork. Remember Star Trek Borks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much borrows from that material of, it's like they're using humans and machines for spare parts to build up their super machine. So,
goodness. Are you familiar with the comic book?
I've not. I don't have a copy of it, but I know I flipped through it at the comic book store. Surprisingly, the comic book looks very clean. You think like a horror kind of comic book and very dark and brooding would be a little bit mysterious, but the images and the illustrations are very clean. Doesn't mean it's not gory and everything. I was surprised how not really dark it is. In fact, the movie's very dark. It's very badly lit. I don't know if they couldn't change a lamp bulb when they made the movie. For budget, but the book was very bright colored. It was really weird. I don't know, maybe it's just because the 90s, everything had to be bright colored.
Do you think they made it super dark? Because we've seen movies where it's been very poorly lit, and I think that they did it because they didn't have the budget to make the special effects or anything that good. So you're like, if it's super dark, we can't really tell what's going on.
Right, I think that plays a part. It's directed by John Bruno. This is probably his only full feature film that he directed because he's primarily a special effects guy. He's worked on a lot of movies that you would recognize as special effects. In fact, he's a special effects for like Terminators and all that movies. And this, I think he understood the special effects. This wasn't going to look right, so we're going to turn down the lighting and amp up the sound editing so we can get a sense of cyborgs. But it really was chunky and kind of, it looked like they were trying to do the movie The Thing also.
Yeah.
Just it was too dark, and the cutting just doesn't make a lot of sense either.
He's really been in some very big projects that have been amazing. He's in one that we've seen, The Abyss, which has phenomenal visuals.
Yeah, I think that won an Oscar for special effects too, yeah.
Yeah, he was also the visual effects supervisor for Avatar.
Yep, yeah, and there's a weird connection with Avatar. There's an actor that's in Virus. I can't remember. I think his name is Cliff Curtis. And he played a guy named, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's also going to be he signed on to do the next Avatar movies as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is an Avatar connection. Yeah. And he's got, he has a tattooed kind of face. I think his name is Cliff Curtis. I think that's the guy's name is Cliff Curtis, but he has facial tattoos. And I think it's a homage to, remember Moby Dick Ishmael? He was covered in tattoos.
Oh, okay.
And he was like the first mate, and his name is Ishmael, and he was covered in tattoos. He was he was like a native person, and they kind of, I think it was an homage in the movie of had this guy from New Zealand have tattoos all his face and long hair. It's almost like, man, they're stealing from Ishmael. It's Moby Dick.
And they pump out this worthless piece of crap movie.
Right. Even back to the captain's almost like, what is it, Captain Ahab?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's almost like just unapologetic, obsessive, compulsive. Like he's just greedy. I want to get this ship no matter the cost. If it kills my life, I'm going to get this thing. So yeah, there's a lot of elements of Moby Dick in it that they used. It was hilarious.
Oh my word! I can't believe you sat down and watched that one. So the one we watched was completely different. It was a virus that wipes out the entire planet except for people living on Antarctica, because the virus can only replicate and infect people in temperatures above freezing.
So it's like a bacterial virus, not like anything alien.
No, it's not alien. It was made in a lab for, a chemical weapon, and
Made in a lab. They're being irresponsible. Yeah.
Yep. It's how it works. There's always some bad blood between the U.S. and Russia, and then it just all hits the fan.
So you have some. Glenn Ford was in it. He's a very famous. If anybody would recognize him, that's he played Jonathan Kent in the first Superman, the '70s Superman movie. Glenn Ford was that guy, and then you have George Kennedy too. Man, you got some.
Oh yeah,
and Robert Vaughn. Man, you got some awesome people in this movie.
I know, it's pretty. Edward James Olmos is in it, and he's really young looking. It's kind of odd.
Which is because he always looked like what? I think in his 20s he looked like he was 40 years old.
Yeah, I know. So he must have been a teenager when he was doing this one. No, it has some bigger names in it.
So it's primarily in English, Japanese, French, German. So how did you navigate subtitles? Is it all English or what?
It is all English, thank God.
Okay. All right, that helps a little bit, right?
Yeah, but they get all these people from different nations together and in Antarctica, because they're the only people who are left, and they all have to work together. There's also some very odd things in the movie, I'll say that, because there's like 855 guys and 8 women, so it gets...
The ratio that's not going to work.
No, it gets weird. Some really weird quotes and things in that movie.
Oh, it's a little okay. All right, I can understand. All right, so I get the story that this Japanese sub comes across an American sub. Is that what happens? And they're trying to like.
No, there's just most of the time it's on Antarctica, but then all of a sudden there's a sub that has no one infected on it, and so nobody has been exposed, and that's their link to get around and check and see if people are still alive and protect the Antarctic base from people who may be trying to get there who may be infected.
So, like, it's not really like scientific based. It's just an explanation to get everybody concentrate on, narrow down the population to get like something like Walking Dead, like focus on the few remaining people alive. It's not really like a science based kind of a movie like Outbreak or something like that.
Yeah, it's you are only focused on your survivors in Antarctica because everybody else is dead.
Okay,
like everybody else.
That's coming. Yeah, so it's like those survivor movies. It's pretty much a way to limit the population so you can concentrate just on a few people.
Yep.
And then the fear factors. And I'm sure somebody inside the group is against them and is doing something that everybody doesn't agree on. I kind of right.
Yeah, there's some of that.
A little friction involved with everybody. Some alpha male power playing, right?
Yeah, have you seen this movie?
It's because I've seen so many movies. Did you like the ending? That's the most important. The ending.
The ending made no sense.
That doesn't help when the ending doesn't make any sense. Because you invested like 2 hours and you want some kind of like interest at the end, and it doesn't. It's like, what? That makes it even,
Yeah, it's kind of odd. So a guy, he has to disarm these nuclear bombs from going off that were armed by America, and an earthquake's going to set them off, and they're going to hit Russia. But then the Russian nukes are going to automatically launch, even though everybody's already dead. They're going to launch, and one of them's aimed at the Antarctic base where everybody's at. So he's got like his love interest down in Antarctica, but he's up in Washington D.C. He is unable to stop the nukes.
But he's in Washington, D.C. Right, okay.
Yeah, but he's there because the sub takes him there. He's unable to stop it. And then I can only assume the base got wiped out in Antarctica because all of a sudden they're living in some weird makeshift hut, and all of a sudden he shows up like he just walked there. I'm like, how do you walk to Antarctica? You can't. There's no way.
This is almost like, remember like The Dark Knight Rises, right? Remember when he gets out of the tunnel and then everything is closed off in Gotham City, but then he just shows up. They don't really.
Oh yeah.
What, he just start walking across the ocean or what?
Right.
All of a sudden he's just there. So it's kind of like that. He just like pop. I'm there. What?
Yeah. Like, okay, whatever. Gosh. Anything weird happen in Virus 99?
Well, the weird thing, if you watch Virus 99, the weird thing is, I think there's supposed to be this portrayal of the captain, played by Donald Sutherland, as this heavy reserved, very brutish kind of character, but he comes off as not giving a crap the entire time he's in the movie. There's a scene where Jamie Lee Curtis punches him and he goes to the ground and he gives this look like, all right, we're going to do take two, you know. And it's one of the, actually there is a cult following of people who appreciate this movie for the hokiness that it is. They understand that it's not going to be well accomplished, but the way people correspond their dialogue in the movie is so static and it's so stiff that it's kind of hilarious almost, because they'll say, don't go close to that cyborg. If he gets his armor on you, he's gonna kill you. And they're like, kill me, kill you. And then it does. And you're like, well, why would you speak the line? So it's almost a comical portrayal. It's almost, the dialogue is so bad that it gets kind of fun to watch because it's so stiff. It's so unnatural.
Yeah.
So with your movie Virus, do you think the dialogue was actually pretty good, or do you think it was just kind of very almost staticky too? I know this in a lot of bad movies that dialogue is just so weird.
It was all right. I mean, I've seen worse out of movies. It's the dialogue didn't particularly blow me away, but yeah, I don't know. It was there. It was fine. It didn't really like add or detract from the movie one way or another.
So was it kind of dark, or was it very brightly lit, or kind of like a B action movie?
Yeah, I'd say that, and like really grainy and just visually not that good. I can't even describe it. How weird it looked. Like movies from the 50s look better than this thing. I don't get it, but how about yours? How did it look? Like, I know you said it's super dark, but from the stuff you could see, it was...
Right. There's always those things that go on, like they drop the anchor, but it crushes the boat they were on, so there's no way to escape. And you're like, well, that was a stupid move. Like, what? So there's, you need a reason why they can't escape, and the guy accidentally drops anchor on their boat, which is like, that probably would never, ever happen. Experience... would never
sailors.
Yeah, experienced sailors would never just accidentally drop the anchor on their own boat they just got up. Well, we're stuck here. Well, we have to deal with it. An interesting footnote of this movie: it has a person who plays a minor role in it. The character's name is Richie. Is played by a guy named Sherman Augustus, who actually played professional football for the Vikings and San Diego Chargers.
Really?
Yes, and this is one of his first movies he's ever been in. If you want a little footnote, a little trivia and stuff, Sherman Augustus was actually in Westworld season 2 as a sheriff.
Really?
Yes, and he had a couple lines in Westworld 2, and he's been a prominent person, playing a prominent character of AMC's series Into the Badlands.
So his career did not start and stop here.
No. In fact, he's just picked up minor different roles and slowly getting his, taste and variety of stuff. And he's actually did some stunt work also. He's got the football build. You can find him on Into the Badlands. And also he played his college football here at the University of Northwestern St. Paul campus.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to find out. It's like I thought I knew all the people with Minnesota connections to movies, but you learn. Yeah,
that's crazy. So with the alien in your movie, Was there any explanation of it, or it was just there's just an alien here and we just got to?
Yeah, they give that non-scientific. It's energy. It's electrical energy. It can go into anything electrical. Which okay, whatever. But it's electromagnetic because it can transfer from one space to another without a medium, right? So it's electromagnetic, if I want to be technical. But it comes from outer space. In fact, at the beginning of the movie, this ray of energy comes right through the Mir space station and slices it through, and then it goes right into this boat. And that's the start of the movie. Almost like The Thing, the movie The Thing. Remember, it's a spaceship that crashes right into the Arctic. We don't get an explanation of what it is, but we just crash, and then that's where So, yeah, I think it's borrowed a lot from The Thing.
So it's from The Thing, from
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick.
From the movie Alien, where you got your enclosed environment, and it's dark and sweaty and everything, yeah.
So, I mean, these, stories and movies we're talking about are all awesome, but it just doesn't come together in this.
No, it just feels a little stiff, and it just, they have to have one Russian survivor on the boat. It's a Russian scientist, so they get some exposition, But it just doesn't, the tension doesn't get there. And obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis is carrying the movie, and she really does. I mean, for a bad movie, she really works her butt off to get something out there that's worth watching. She actually is the highlight of the movie. Her great dialogue and everything is actually the best part of the movie.
It is always good when you have somebody who can kind of carry it. We just watched a movie called Dark Descent that is a Dean Cain film about a sub base, and he was surprisingly good in this bad movie and really carried it to a point where you're like, oh, I can sit down and watch this movie.
Right, good. All right.
If it was anybody else, you'd be like, I can't watch this.
I don't think I've ever in the world where I hear somebody say Dean Cain did good acting.
There's a first time for everything, right?
Okay. Dark Descent, that's what it's called, huh?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was going to mention the other aspect of this movie, Virus, in 1999. It was released January 15th. That week also, two movies came out, was Varsity Blues and She's All That.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it could not compete with that teenage romance stuff. That's how bad. Teenagers love horror movies, but they went to see Varsity Blues and see She All That instead of this thing.
What can you do, man? Hormones, they got everybody going crazy.
Yeah. Another aspect, and I think it's kind of weird, is Sci-Fi Channel came out with a movie the same month called Alien Cargo with Jason London, and it actually is better than this movie called Virus. And
really?
And there's people that you can, if you want to navigate the internet, people have found it. And actually, I watched it for a couple minutes. It's actually, everybody knows it's a ripoff of like those alien movies, but it's presented really well. They know what they're doing, and it gives a hint. We're picking up this cargo we don't know anything about. Do you want to touch it? What do you think I am, an idiot?
Right. So,
but it actually is surprisingly good. Like Dark Descent, you're like, it's a cheap movie, but it's actually interesting. I wanted to finish watching that movie, then I wanted to finish Virus.
You're like, great, but I got to watch this movie that Kyle asked me to, and it's not even the right one. And great. I'm sorry we put you through that.
Based on submarines, do you know what kind of subs they had in your Virus movie? Or I know you're not really that kind of a focus, but did they at least get the submarines correct? Like, this is a Japanese sub with Japanese.
Well, they did have the Russian sub, and everybody on there was going a little crazy. And that's all we've ever seen in movies. We've never seen a Russian sub where everybody's like super calm. Things are always going wrong. And then they had a UK sub. But this is really the first movie we've watched where we've seen a full-size UK sub. Everything else has been, well, we had one movie where they were mini subs. So it was, for our intents and purposes, yeah, it was pretty well done. Although there was a laboratory in there that looked like it was not on a submarine that this guy was working on. The ceiling was like a 12-foot ceiling and, had a nice tiled wall. I'm like, all right,
That's not happening. Because you can't have tile in a sub, right? Because it compresses and retracts, right? So you can't have like a tile ceiling in a sub, right?
well, it would just be a waste anyway. You're like, what do we need this for? Nothing. For aesthetics? Okay, why are we putting this in here? So stuff like that you're like, well, no, that's weird.
Oh, man. Right. So did they make a sequel out of this?
Not that I've seen. I would like to see a remake.
Okay.
I think it could be done very well.
So if they have some kind of nucleus for this movie that if they took it to the right hands will make it a very interesting kind of dynamic of the entire world's crapped out and you're trapped on Antarctica because that's the only way we can survive because somehow the temperature keeps you there, right? You're outside the temperature, the virus kill you. So you got some kind of idea. I mean, The Thing did it, right?
Yeah. And they did it really well.
Other than that, what was the other Japanese movie based on subs that you've seen before? Because this is not the first one, right?
No, this is not. We have been watching. We've done how many now? 2. We did Latitude Zero.
Okay.
Which is amazing. That's got flying dragon and lion monsters in it and all that type of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And the submarine even flies. And then we watched Lorelei, the Witch of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys didn't do an episode about that yet, have you?
Yeah, we did. That was last week.
Oh, I need to catch up. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I need to
on the cover it says Japan's answer to Das Boot. So, yeah, well, I don't know about that, but it was something.
It's their answer. Doesn't mean it's the correct answer.
That's true.
So, like with Japan, they usually with the style, it's overly the top, like way over exaggerated. Did you get a sense of that throughout the movie? That there's this enormous exaggeration to this.
Yeah, you would see that in more so the first 2 that we watched rather than this one. So in this, there were some things that were kind of exaggerated, like when they were listing the death tolls of people by city.
Yeah,
like New York, Paris, Tokyo, or whatever. But when it got to Tokyo, it was like bum bum bum.
Yes, Japan loves to cater to its own audience. If you notice right away, it's not an insult or anything. It's just an observation that anytime that Japan does a movie, their central home base, it's a little more brooding, it's a little more foreboding of anything that happens to them than anything. Like they do Godzilla, the devastation of Tokyo is far more devastating than he goes to America and just stomps on it. It's like, okay, you got yours end. But yeah, they have a tendency to really focus on the home end of those. They want to make sure their home audience gets it before the rest of the international perspective. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I think this movie does it have like play of America and Japan kind of a competition, or do they kind of mostly work it out?
They work it out for the most part. It's really not them, but they do take a ride on over to Tokyo in the submarine to go check out what's going on over there, just to see the devastation. But along those lines, you just mentioned Godzilla and all that stuff, so we have been doing Japanese Submarine Movie Month. Do you have any particular Japanese movies that you really enjoy?
Just Japanese movies in general?
Yeah.
I'll just go with the automatic, like Kurosawa. Just say anything from Kurosawa. In fact, my favorite from Kurosawa is his version of Macbeth, which is Throne of Blood. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't. That sounds pretty intense.
It's his version of Macbeth, and of course it's Japan, so it's way more murder and way more gaudy than you think. And a cinematic footnote of Throne of Blood is there's a scene where the guy who kind of like Macbeth, but they're shooting arrows at him, like hundreds of people, and they really are shooting arrows at him.
Really?
Run one end of the balcony, and he'll shoot arrows, and when he stops, they'll go right in front of him. So they had really skilled archers to shoot real-life arrows. So when you can look at this footage up, so when you see his terror, it really is frightening to him, how accurate these archers are shooting arrows at him. Of course, he's got like a body protector. He's got a lot of armor. and they did shoot arrows at him, but the end of it was so small it wouldn't penetrate him, but they did stick to his chest. It's one of the most fascinating scenes of cinema ever, is the ending of Throwing the Blood where they shoot all the arrows at him. It is wonderfully fascinating, and you really see the terror on the guy's eyes. He wants to he's like running, like, I'm sure he's like screaming, cut, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. And they're still shooting arrows and closely hitting him, slightly missing him. It's fascinating to me.
That is crazy. I cannot imagine anybody getting away with that nowadays.
Oh, no,
way.
Your union rep would probably call you up.
Hey, I just got a call from Craig, and he said you guys were shooting arrows at him. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's nuts.
And I understand, Kurosawa, his formulas has been used, and we see Kurosawa influence in all the movies that we've seen. In fact, these movies where he gets the action out of the way and then settles the story down. We see that all the time in our movies. We get the action right away, and then we get the story, then we build up to another action. So, like your famous directors like Lucas and Spielberg and all of them know that formula, the Kurosawa formula. They'd use it in Star Wars and Raiders of the big action sequence, and it gets you in there for the first 10 minutes, and then everything settles down and we go over their story. And just like this movie, you get your big action with the big, like Virus, you get your big action out of the way, and then you can settle into your story and figure things out. And that's the big influence is Kurosawa, yeah.
Now, did Virus 99 do that?
They initially did. They just want to give an explanation of where this came from. It came from outer space, of course. That's just, it had crashed through the Earth. And obviously, the nice play of this is what is a virus? That's the whole point of this movie. Is the alien coming in who wants to correct things a virus, and he deems humans a virus, or is the human's perspective he's a virus because he keeps taking stuff and molding it to his perspective. So there is, by its core, there is a good story there, a good metaphor of what a virus is. But a couple months later, you get The Matrix, but it did a fantastic job of what is a virus and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think if you put Virus versus The Matrix.
Well, it's the same year, yeah. This movie, Virus in '99, came out in January, and then I think in the spring, the movie The Matrix came out, and then that was it. I mean, you're just not going to recover, everybody's focus is going to be on that.
So who did you side with on this? Were the humans the virus, or was this electromagnetic alien the virus?
Well, right, because it's almost like The Matrix. The computer program is perceptive, like you just come and damage everything. Look, you damage the ship. I'm trying to fix everything. But for him, he's scrapping only what he needs, right? He's not really making anything better. He's just scrapping to survive. So, in fact, you could probably have an argument that he's the virus no matter what his perception is. It or whatever,
You don't want to assume gender on that electromagnetic alien.
No, I didn't. I couldn't. It's so dark. I couldn't tell if it had what.
Oh man! So on our show, we always rate our sub movies.
Yeah.
Out of 12 inches. But what would you say that you would give Virus?
I would give it, just because Jamie Lee's performance, I'll give it around a 2.
A 2? Okay. It's pretty low.
It is. Sadly, it is. But if without Jamie Lee Curtis, it could have been worse.
Well, if you want to see even worse, go ahead and watch the movie Stinger. It's probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah, I probably punished you enough having you watch Virus.
Well, I understand, because I do have a collection. I do, and I tell everybody, I do have a collection of what's called drive-through classics, about 80 films that are just cheap Grindhouse movies. And when I told my dad, hey, look, I bought these from the 60s, 70s Grindhouse drive-in movies. And he was like, what's the matter with you? Those are the movies you take your date with so you don't focus on the movie. Consciously watch these movies? Yeah, you're an idiot.
Hey, that's that could explain why all the teenagers didn't go to this one then, huh? Because they thought it was going to be too good.
Right. Can it be too good? So what would you rate the Japanese movie Virus from 1980? What would you give it a rating of?
Oh.
Yeah, that's not good when you go...
It had some things I liked, had some things I didn't like. I better make this consistent with the episode, so I'll have to... It'll probably be like a 5.25.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's definitely watchable.
I understand because you got some good people. I mean, you got George Kennedy, you got Edward James Olmos in it. I mean, even if how bad it is, you get some good actors in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting concept, but I would think that somebody could remake this today and be very successful.
Well, get on screen. You can screenwrite it, can't you?
Sure.
Kyle's on it.
Yeah.
The virus, right. Okay.
Studios will be like, this guy just keeps contacting us about remaking Virus from Japan. Like, leave us alone.
You got to put something else on it, the virus or something else, because there's so many movies that just have virus on it. If you Google virus, you get almost get a virus by Googling.
Yeah, I know it. It's crazy. But I think things are about winding down here. Oh,
man. This is too much fun. I like talking movies too much. This is way too much fun.
Dude, I know. I love it, too. It's a blast. But real quick again, before we go, just St. Paul Filmcast. Check it out. What's your Twitter handle? What's the best way for people to follow you? Everything like that.
Best way to really follow us is on Twitter. I give a bunch of updates and let me know ahead of time what's going about. So we're on Twitter at ST Paul Filmcast. ST Paul Filmcast. And we're also on Instagram, same kind of handle at STP Paul Filmcast. We're also on Instagram as well.
Awesome. And where can everybody listen to your podcast?
St. Paul Filmcast is on Stitcher, Google Play. We are on iTunes, of course. Podbean is our distributor, and we are on Spotify as well.
That's awesome. And be sure to look for your comic book. Now, you're getting it published. Do you know when it should be coming out?
We haven't got communication with my publisher yet, but definitely coming out in the fall, this fall.
That'll be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Somehow we have to get you guys a copy.
Oh, yeah. I will order one. I hope it's autographed, but if not, I understand. If you're too big for me, it's fine.
You know, some people who collect comic books don't want you to autograph. It's a good question I always ask, because some people, if you autograph it, it does depreciate the value of it. So you
really?
Yeah. It's just, because there are collectibles. You kind of always ask people when I buy it, do you want me to sign it? Some people, it's actually almost a praise to say, no, I don't want you to sign it. I wanted to go up in value. I know you're going to do good.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to slap you in the face by asking for a signature. You're probably like, screw this guy. Goodness.
Well, I have to say, Kyle, thanks for having me on. This is too much fun. You're gonna have to come. We're gonna have to keep going with this. Coming up here and I come down there and stuff. Yeah,
definitely. And I know we even talked about doing a live event at a brewery, which needs to happen.
Oh yeah, yes. It's my reason to go to a brewery. I need a valid reason. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. Always looking forward to your next episodes. I notice I'm a little behind, so I know what I'm going to be listening to as I go back to my comic book.
Thanks for listening to Submersion. Find us on SoundCloud and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Can't get enough of us? Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. And if you like what you heard, please go ahead and give us a rating.